Shiv Narayan, Connie, welcome, welcome.
Yes, very
Gratitude
nice
for
to be
being
with you
here with
today.
us
Yes,
today.
it's my pleasure, Aphrodita. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And yes.
Today we're going to talk about astrology. It's amazing. Pjesa Prashant Trivedi, our guru, is so kind to let this interview happen also, and he's the best astrologer in the world who has so many important books in astrology and many other types of books, which our audience, yes, very nice. Yeah.
Yes.
And we have so many people that have asked me, and you know more about me. So he's so kind. He is full of knowledge. He knows so much about astrology. And today we're going to talk just a bit the basic of some things that people are wondering about. So gratitude to P.
Well, first of all, Aphrodita, I would like to bow, as you will said before, to the Jyotishi master Prashant Trivedi. As we all know, he's such a renowned Vedic astrologer. What I'm bringing here today, it is just a small, basic, minuscule sample of all the knowledge he actually possesses about the science, okay? So we also have to emphasize from this moment onwards that in Vedic astrology assesses the position of the planets in the sky as per their exact astronomical position in each constellation of the zodiac belt.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because we are here in Europe, we are so used to the tropical system, only the planets, and that's it, like not so much about the stars. So we would like to know more, just a bit, can you tell, Connie, the difference between sidereal and tropical system?
Yes, well, briefly, the sidereal system is what we have just said. Is what in reality Vedic astrology is based on the sidereal system, and what it assesses Vedic astrology is the position of the planets called grahas in Sanskrit, the position of the planets in the sky as per their exact astronomical position in each constellation. Okay, the way we see them in the sky, right? Yes, the way we see them in the sky. That's the sidereal system. On the other hand, in the tropical zodiac, which is different to this system, and Vedic astrology is not based on this system, okay, this is a different system. In the tropical zodiac, what they do is they measure 12 portions of 30 degrees each, beginning from the vernal spring equinox, okay? The vernal equinox is the point where the sun crosses the Earth's equator on its way north, and that's the first day of spring, and it's 0 degrees Aries. Okay, so the difference we have here between sidereal and tropical is that sidereal is the way we see the grahas, the planets in the sky, as per they are in the sky.
People are asking so much about the chart, about what are the planets. They know now just a bit about the nakshatras, and they have known also now about the karma, the karmas, all right? So the karmas of our previous lives or of this life. So can you tell us, Connie, are there different types of karma for each being? Like, are there different types of karma?
Yes, there are. So Vedic astrology is necessary in order to understand the positive and the negative actions that we have done in the past, all right? Meaning in a previous life, as you will say, Perdita. We can also understand Vedic astrology as a tree that provides 4 types of fruits, okay?
Very interesting.
Yeah, so those fruits are a metaphor for karms. So there are 4 types of karms, okay? We human beings are seated below that tree. Obviously, this is a metaphor, okay? And we are going to find out what fruit will fall first. The fruit is the metaphor of the karma, okay, that is going to follow on us. from a previous life or lives, okay? And the metaphor is that we as human beings are seated below this tree, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And an astrologer should be able to discern which fruit will fall first on that human seated below, right? The fruit is a metaphor, as we have just said, of the karma, yeah, the previous karmas, the karmas that this person is going to bring to this life and this person will have to experience. Okay, so Vedic astrology doesn't help us choose what fruit we want to experience. This is important. It doesn't help us choose, okay? There's no choosing involved. Meaning if a natal chart is going to produce negative and positive results, like anyone in this world, we have positive and negative things to experience. Vedic astrology does not allow us to choose only the positive situations. That would be ideal, but it's not the case. Afrodita, what is going to happen is that we are going to experience positive and negative things, okay, which are some of the present consequences of our actions from the past. Okay, the karmas we are going to experience in this life are the present consequences. Those are the consequences.
Yes. Because people, we have actually in Lotus Social Meditation, the mantras, which is very popular, which P is so kind to share with us, actions have consequences. So it means that we have done actions before, even in this life or in the previous lives, and we carry these actions, the consequences of these actions in this life also, right? Or in the future, right? So actions, so karmas has to do with actions, and actually in Albanian, karma, it means also actions. So Albanians will understand this one.
Exactly, Afrodita, that's the case, exactly. Karma means action, and all actions we do have consequences, and obviously we've done karmas in the past, in previous lives, and also in this life, and the consequences, the circumstances, okay, we can say consequences or circumstances that we are going to experience in this lifetime is due to those karmas, okay, right?
Yes.
So as we were saying, the negative situations will appear too. There's no way to avoid that. Since they are karmas, we have to experience, and that is why they are present in anyone's specific chart.
Yes.
Okay, we will explain something later regarding this. They cannot be avoided. They perhaps can be minimized, but they have to be experienced nonetheless, because that's why we have reincarnated here, in order to experience positive and negative things as per our chart. Okay?
Yes, and a positive karma or a positive action we have done before, it will have a positive consequence, which means bliss, good things. And a negative karma means, suffering. And that's why we also sometimes wonder why this thing happened to me or to us, or, so that is a reason. So Vedic astrology, this is about Vedic astrology, the revelation of Pitsi Prashant Trivedi, which we are talking here. So this is so important actually, and people are wondering. So this is gonna be really good knowledge, so people can understand more about their own chart and why they have the situation of the now and how can they improve also in the future.
Exactly, Perdita. So as we were saying, for example, if the fruit that is going to fall, again, this is a metaphor for the car, is a bit sour, and by that we mean it's not very pleasant, even though Vedic astrology cannot avoid the actual fall of that fruit, okay, as we have just said, this science can help us reduce the negative effects of this negative karma situation by performing correct actions, as you will know, Afrodita, and some remedies, okay?
Very nice, very nice to hear.
That's the part of
that's very interesting.
Yes, as you obviously know, this part of Perdita, we always talk at Lotus Ocean about performing correct actions.
Yes.
So Vedic astrology cannot avoid, it's not in order to avoid, it's in order to understand our karmas. This science is used in order to understand our karmas, okay?
Exactly.
All right. So now we are going to discuss a little bit in detail the 4 types of karmas that exist, okay? Sanchit karma, okay? Sanchit karma is the total sum of actions that one has performed in past lives. The good actions, the bad actions, absolutely everything performed in the thousands of previous lives. Okay,
Wow.
imagine like a big sack, okay, and it has all your karmas that you have done
all the bad
since the beginning of
all
creation.
the bad and
okay?
good actions, really big one.
Exactly. Really big bag. Okay,
Because
that's
we think, because people also might think that actually this is like no, there are like we do things, actions every day, but we don't understand that there is consequence. So this is going to be so good for people to know that there exists and it is a science.
Yes, exactly, Perdita. They exist and it is a science. So Sanchit Karm is going to be the big sack of all the karms, but we are not going to experience all of them in this lifetime because obviously this is a very small, short lifetime. We cannot experience so many things in maximum 100 years, right?
Yes.
So now we go to Prabd Karm, okay? Prabd Karm is different to Sanchit Karm because in Prabd Karm, the consequences from the actions from previous lives, this is the karma that we are going to experience in this lifetime specifically, okay? So imagine from Sanchit karma, which is the big pot, the big sack, we are going to grab a portion, okay? And that portion is going to be Prabd karma, only a small portion of all the Sanchit karma. These are the karmas we are going to experience in this lifetime, okay? So these are the karmas. This I'm glad to hear that is easily understood. These are actually the karms that will appear on the birth chart, not Sanchit karma. Sanchit karma is way too
big.
huge.
It's too big. Yeah.
It's too big to appear in one life. It's not possible. So the karms we're going to see is the Prabda karma. Okay, those ones we're going, and this is a mix of several karms, meaning everything present in the birth chart that is somehow the reason why we have reincarnated in this instance. It's almost like a debt. You have to repay something, and you have to come back to the place to repay something. Okay, so that's Prabda karms. And of course, we don't only bring bad karms, we also bring good karms, okay? And the good karms are the good consequences of our actions, okay, from previous lives. And those karms can be observed from the 5th house. We will explain the houses later. This is just for your spectators to get used to these terms, okay?
This is the start.
That the good karms, this is the start. So the good karms can be observed from the 5th house of the birth chart, and they are called Purva Punya, okay? And the bad consequences from previous life actions can be observed from the 6th house, and that is the Prabda karma, the karma we have just talked about, okay? That small chunk from the Sanchit is the Prabda and also the Purva Punya, okay? So we are going to have good and bad karmas that are going to be experienced in this lifetime. Yes? Not all Sanchit, just the Prabda karma, the portion that can be seen from the 6th house, and the Purva Punya, which are the good karmas that can be seen from the 5th house, and many other houses as well. But this is like the basic way of understanding this, okay?
Yes.
Okay. And also, it's important to add that the great Vedic master Prashant Trivedi, that like your spectators know, they know he's a great astrologer and a great Vedic master. He always mentions that one should not be lazy, particularly with those planets that signify and represent certain houses of the birth chart and that they are located in the 6th house. But grahas, planets, represent certain houses, all of the houses, in fact, of the birth chart. And those grahas are going to be positioned in several houses. But those grahas also represent other houses of the birth chart. Okay? Okay. If those grahas, planets, go to the 6th house, what Prashant Trivedi was saying is that one should not be lazy. Okay? If those grahas represent, for example, whatever it is, whatever activity related to the birth chart, one should work diligently on those activities. And why is that? because they fall in the sixth house. In the sixth house, what did we say it was? Pravda karma. Consequences we bring from previous lives.
Yeah,
The
which are
payback
the
time.
bad karmas in the sixth
Yes,
house.
payback time. So if you bring something from a previous life and you refuse to pay in this life, well, it's like if you have a debt and you refuse to pay, some people are going to get pissed off, upset.
I'm looking
right?
forward to see what is in my sixth house to to clean some.
Yes, exactly. That's a very good analogy, Afrodita. We come here to clean them. So we cannot be lazy. We have to grab that brush and that and mop and everything and start to clean. Because if we neglect that house, we are going to have issues. We cannot be lazy in this house.
And
Okay?
be so kind to explain it,
Yes,
how to, especially with the centration and the lotus social meditation and doing the basics. He's so kind to help us how to begin to clean our actions, the consequences of our actions, which we have done ourselves before, right?
Yes. That one should work on those areas proactively, not shy away, no matter how hard it is, because obviously the fact we have to pay something doesn't mean it's going to be easy to pay. Sometimes it's going to be tough.
Exactly.
So one should work proactively because those are areas that we bring from a past life. They are a priority, okay? Yeah. If they are in the sixth house, that should be attended. And that is a direct message from the universe saying, hey, you have to work on this in this lifetime. Don't be lazy.
And if we are lazy, Connie, what happens? We are increasing the bad karmas, which means more suffering in the future, right? Is it?
Exactly. It means that, and it means that probably, very likely, one has to come back here to pay the debt.
In worse situation.
Well, it's the way it is, right? If you don't pay something, they're not going to let you go until you pay the debt. That's how it works in many places. So until you don't pay that debt, you're not going anywhere. That's how it is understood. Again, there are obviously, as what we were saying before, by performing right actions, which we deal with this in Lotus Ocean, one can burn negative karmas, all right? That's what we've said many times. So it doesn't mean that these things are going to be there. One has to work on them. And if one does correct actions, those negative karmas are going to start to get minimized because one is performing correct actions. Is it understood? Yes?
Yes, so that is the point of knowing also the astrology, the Vedic astrology, to know where you are at, what situation one is, because we are different, all of us, we're different. Yes. So, and how to improve from the situation, no matter where bad or good it is, one can improve through doing the basics, which actually Prashant Trivedi teaches, and that is actually very, very, very important.
It is very important because, as we have just said, it burns negative karmas.
Yes.
And again, we go back to the same point. If something is present in the sixth house, those things require attention. One should not be lazy regarding those fields of life, let's just say, or different areas of life, okay? Exactly. Anyway, we can go now to the next type of karma, which is agami karma, okay? Unsatisfied desires from previous lives. Look, this is very interesting. Desires that developed in previous lives, and for some reason, they were not satisfied. So now we have carried them forward. And they are desires we want to satisfy in this life. Isn't that a very interesting type of karma?
What is that?
That means that if you couldn't do something in your previous life, and you were like, oh, the infamous word, I wish I had done this, and you didn't do it, you bring those desires to this life, and that creates problem. Because if you bring desires, you're going to get more attached in this physical world because you want to do something, right? You have that desire, that innate desire to be a singer, that innate desire of being whatever. So that can create problems, all right?
Yes.
That's why it's important not to develop this sort of desires, worldly
So yeah, we have to be
desires.
careful in
Yeah,
the desires, and that brings actually to knowledge. If you have more knowledge, then you have the right desires, which actually will evolve one, will make one more evolved, like not devolve, which means
exactly.
creating good consequences, karma.
Exactly, Afrodita, that's it. Yeah, yeah. Well, that will be the third type. Then we had the Sanchit, we had the Prav, we have the Agami, okay? And we have now the final type of karma, which is the Kriyaman. Kriyaman karma, okay? They are desires that arise in this life, not like Agami. Those were desires that arose in the previous lives. Kriyaman are desires that arise in this life, okay? And the actions we may or may not perform in this life, okay, in order to fulfill them, what is going to happen, Afrodita? That those actions that we do in order to fulfill these desires are going to create more karmas. Right. If we suddenly have a sudden desire to do something and we work towards that something, that working towards that something, if it's not evolution, as you well said, that's going to create a lot of karma as well for the next time.
So one has to be very careful to what one desires or to the goals that one think if one gets that goal, will be happy. And even though one gets that goal, is not happy, it's gonna come another goal until one actually evolves. So we need knowledge. He's so kind to teach us about the real knowledge.
He is. Absolutely. He's so knowledgeable. And as they say, Afrodita, the saying, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
Don't they say that, Afrodita? Be careful what you wish for, because it's very dangerous.
It's very dangerous because if you can wish something which will devolve you and you are using your time and energy towards that, and then it's a wrong karma in a way, and then it will be bad consequences. We can also increase the bad karmas, which is very bad. So we have to be careful. And for that, we need knowledge.
Exactly.
Knowledge.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We have a desire, we are going to create karmas, and not only that, if that desire is not even fulfilled, if we fail, we're going to come back with the same desire. Exactly. Imagine what a disaster.
With a much worse model of the body, maybe.
Yes, exactly. So you're going to come back with the same desire. So it's going to be more baggage. If that wasn't enough with the other types of karma, there's another thing to add to the pot. Things that are going to slow you down when it comes to evolution. Exactly. Another extra desire. So it's quite a problematic and dangerous situation, this thing of the karma and all this.
And these Albanian groups that we are asking, we wanted you to talk about this through PT's grace, so that they know more. They have especially though if you have done centering and the basics, so the desires become more with knowledge, and they want to know what to do and where they stand up. So where they stand.
Yes, that's good, Afrodita. That's good that they're seeking more knowledge in this direction of the Vedic science. That's actually really good. So we have some basic terminology that we are going to cover today, extremely basic, okay? The first word is going to be Jyotish, okay? Jyotish means the science of light, also known as Vedic astrology, okay? And it is part of the Veds, okay? The millennial ancient Vedic texts. One part of those texts is Jyotish, all right? Okay, when we see a birth chart for the first time, and we have to tell the difference between what is a Rashi, okay, which are the zodiac signs. You know, when we talk about Gemini, Aries, Taurus, Sagittarius, those are called Rashis. Okay, in Sanskrit, Rashi. And then we have the other word as well, Bab. Bab means house. And as we all know, in a birth chart that you will show the picture, we have 12 houses, okay? Exactly. A birth chart has 12 houses. And how many zodiac signs are there, Afrodita? You know the number of zodiac, 12 as well. Yes?
12, yes, exactly.
Yes, 12. There are 12 zodiac signs, which are Rashis, and there are also 12 houses. Okay,
Yes.
right. And the word Lagna means ascendant. Okay, also known as first house. Okay, the word Lagna, ascendant, and first house is the same. Okay.
Yes. And that is very, very nice, important point, because in the tropical system, the ascendant, it's not known so much. So this is a very,
yeah, they are based on the sun sign and all that. So it's very different.
all they know, it's just that. So this ascendant, the real Jyotish, some basics that you're sharing here with us through Pitti's Grace is very, very
through
nice.
Pitti's Grace, absolutely, yeah.
So from where to start, the first thing that we can consider when we see for the first time in a birth chart, what can we more consider about it?
Yes, but we have to consider, the first thing to consider when we look at a birth chart is the first house. We have to locate which is the first house. Yes. As always, if we have something, we have to start from the first house in this case, which when I said is Lagna, ascendant, and first house is the same. Well, we need to understand that inside that first house, there's going to be a sign. So we were saying that the most important thing is the first house. And when I was talking about the first house, we need to understand that this is like a house, and it's going to have an occupant, right? Inside every house, there's an occupant. In this case, there's going to be a sign, right? So when we say, what is the occupant of the first house? It's going to be, for example, Gemini, Sagittarius, Taurus, or Aquarius, all right? There's going to be an occupant, something living in that house. When I say living, it's like a way of, it's an analogy, okay? The first house, is the most important house of the birth chart because of these reasons, right? Because among several things, it is going to determine which one is one's ascendant. What we have just said, what is the sign inside that first house? That is the ascendant, okay? And therefore, it's going to determine the flavor and content of the rest of the houses, meaning that it determines the flavor of the circumstances that one has to experience in each department of life, all right? Which is controlled by each house. And why do I say this? For example, if we have Aquarius in the first house, all right, the ascendant is going to be Aquarius. Yes, as your spectators can see in the picture, right?
Yes.
So if the ascendant is going to be Aquarius, then unavoidably in the second house is going to be Pisces, because the signs always follow a certain order. Okay, so the first house is going to provide us information regarding the complexion and the physical body of the individual. Okay. Okay, so we are talking the first house is the house of the physical body. Yeah. Yes. It also represents the head, one's personality, although personality is determined by the whole birth chart. There's many other things, but mostly, yes, you can see personality through the first house. And it is also going to determine your height, the impression you can cause on others, right? If the first house or the planet, okay, which we know now we call grahas, okay? The right word to use is graha, all right? So if the first house, right, all the graha that represents that first house, because let's remember we said that all grahas represent the houses of the signs present in the birth chart, okay? Exactly. All grahas are representatives of those signs, and we will see in later sessions which grahas represent which signs, okay? But they all represent a certain sign, okay? It's weak, yeah? Yes. Health problem, oh, yes, it could indicate health problems, weaknesses, etc. But of course, there are other factors to consider, no? Other factors involved in assessing this, right? Is that understood, Afrodita? If the graha that represents this sign occupying the first house is weak, that's not good for the physical body in general terms. Obviously, there are many other things to consider, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if it is strong, then it is means that you can be strong in your physical body or in your personality.
Yeah, it can mean many things, but in principle, it's good to have a strong graha that represents your physical body, because it means a good stamina, good health. It's like if the first house represents a body, obviously you want to have a strong representative of the first house to have a strong body. Yes, there are many other things to consider. This is just on basic terms.
Yeah,
okay?
and in the future, Connie, we can take some examples, or if someone
Yes.
has an ascendant, and we can explain me. But today, just for introducing
Yes.
what we are going to do in the future.
Exactly. This is just for introducing. We will give some examples, but this is just for introducing. And again, we always have to remember this science is very precise, and also it has many layers. So just to talk in general terms is not what real astrologers do, all right? So we cannot just say if the graha is weak, you are going to be weak. It doesn't work like that. It's not that simple. There are many things to assess, many divisional charts to assess, which are other charts apart from the Rashi chart. Okay, there are many other charts. So this is just some general rule. Okay, these statements have to be taken as a general rules, not as a final rules. All right. Okay. So depending on the zodiac sign, which we have said is called Rashi, okay, present in the first house, it will give a different color or flavor to all the attributes, qualities that this house represents, and that we have already explained, okay? Personality, physical body, complexion, for the impression that one gives to others, all these things, okay? So depending on the sign that is inside, it's not going to be the same. Just to give you an example, as you were commenting before, Aferdita, it's not the same. If someone has Aries ascendant, this person is going to introduce themselves, is going to give a different impression than someone that has Pisces ascendant or any other ascendant, Capricorn ascendant. The personalities are going to be different. Then again, we also have to consider where the first Lord means the graha,
which
that
is in
represents,
the first house?
No, the graha that represents the first house. Okay. That graha doesn't have to be in the first house. That graha can be in any other house, but it represents the first house. So for example, if we have a sign, we will always have a sign in the first house. But then the graha that represents that first house is going to fall in another sign.
Yeah, so I have my Lord, the ascendant Lord of the first house, you know, the Lord of the first house, is in the 10th house, for example.
Is in the 10th house, okay. Yeah. Okay, so exactly. So in your case, the first Lord will fall in the 10th house. So again, is what we are saying. In order to explain the personality and the physical body, many other in the complexion and the qualities of the first house, we have to look at the first house and also where this graha goes. No, the graha that represents the first house is going to fall in a different sign in a different house. So there are several things to consider, okay? And not only that, we can go into more detail, okay, and analyze the nakshatra. You know, the nakshatra, Verdita, meaning the subdivision of the zodiac sign that ascends, is present, occupies, okay, the first house, all right? And the moment that an individual is born, all right? So that's going to be important, because this science has a lot of details to consider. So it's not only the sign, the zodiac sign that is going to be present in the first house, we will also have to consider the nakshatra that is present, the degree. Just to make the thing simple, let's just say for now that the nakshatras are subdivisions of the signs. It's not exactly like that, because signs are based on the sun and nakshatras are based on the moon, okay? But just to start with, let's just say that it's important to take into account the nakshatra present, the degree, the moment that person is present in the horizon. There's going to be if, for example, imagine the horizon, right? Yeah. In the east, okay? A person looking at the east. and imagine a baby is born in that moment, okay? You look at the east and imagine you have the constellation of Scorpio, 8 degrees. There's going to be an nakshatra inside that Scorpio at 8 degrees. That's going to be the ascendant of that person.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Yes,
that makes a huge, big change from the tropical system
exactly.
in the sidereal.
Exactly.
And he's so kind to, he has written the book 27 Nakshatras, which is a revelation for human beings to know about the constellations, the stars, what are the names, the groups of the stars, and that affects in your ascendant or in your the first house. So it affects your personality, everything. Plus with the ascendant sign in the first house.
Yes, the ascendant sign and then nakshatra inside, because in this example, when we say we're looking at the east and a baby is born at that moment. And when we look at the east, in that moment, in our example, for example, 8 degrees Scorpio, that's going to be Anuradha, right?
Yes.
So that baby is going to have Anuradha ascendant. It's not going to be the same as having Vishaka or having Jyeshta. It's going to give it a different, it's almost the way this can be understood is Scorpio is going to be Scorpio, but it's going to have different colors. It's going to be lighter or darker, okay?
Yeah.
So these are the different colors of every sign, the subdivisions, not the nakshatras, okay? All right. So during many years, as you have commented before, Afrodita, it has been erroneously assigning tropical astrology that the personality depends on your sun sign. But this is not correct, okay? This is wrong. Personality is determined mostly by the sign present in your first house and where the graha presiding the first house falls, in what sign and what house, okay? That's what determines personality, amongst other things, not your sun sign. This is already something that we can debunk today. Sun sign doesn't it doesn't represent, doesn't explain your personality. It's not very precise, so exact.
Plus that also the sun signs are not so correct with I thought, for example, I was Aquarian, but I was actually not that.
And yes, because one is in the tropical system versus the sidereal system. So yeah, exactly. This is going to be different. So yeah.
But you said that the first house is the most important house, right?
Yes.
Why is that?
As I was saying before, Afrodita, the first house is the most important house. First of all, because if there's no first house, you don't have a physical body, okay?
Right.
Because the first house represents physical body. So if you don't have first house, you don't have a physical body. And therefore, you don't exist in this realm in the first place. The first house determines the fact that you are here to perform karmas. And it's also important because of what we were saying before. The signs will have a specific order. So if you have Aquarius ascendant, the next house, which is the second house, inevitably is going to have Pisces. And the third house is going to have Aries. Because they follow a of operating in the birth chart, okay?
Exactly.
They follow a way. So that's why the first house is the most important, because depending what is on the first house is going to determine the other houses. It's going to determine what signs are inside the other houses. Yeah.
Exactly. Very nice.
Okay. So just as a sort of final comment, it's also important to mention that if a specific graha that doesn't preside the first house, okay, a graha that is not related to the first house, but if this graha is present inside the first house, okay, this is going to strongly determine certain characteristics as well related to the first house, okay, personality, height, complexion, etc. Do we understand this point, Afrodita?
Yes, for example, if one has, it is, for example, Pisces, and it has Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter, but has, for example, the moon
Yes.
in the first house. So it will affect, it will be more complexity. It will be a mix of these energies, right?
Exactly, Ferdita, perfect. That's it. That's it. It's going to be like a mix of those energies. Perfect. Of the first house, the graha present inside the first house, and the graha presiding the first house. Where does it go? To end the session of today, Ferdita, as you have mentioned many times in our Lotus Ocean meditations, one has to see the first house, which is our body, as a divine present. Okay, it is a divine present, our physical body. Yes, because while the first house exists, whilst one has first house, it means we exist. And whilst we exist, we have time to perform correct actions in this realm. That's why the first house is so important. Okay, in the next session, we will continue to explain how to read the birth chart in a little bit more detail about the grahas and the second house and all that. Okay, so we'll leave it for today, Afrodita.
Yes, gratitude so much through Piti's grace for explaining us these important topics. He's so kind, he's so knowledgeable. And this is so interesting, new things in a way, and which are precise, because this is a very high quality of science, which Piti knows, and he's so kind to let us also.
This is universal engineering. This is engineering. This is very precise, and like Prashant Trivedi says, obviously all knowledge has to be practical, otherwise it's just information. So this is all a science, and everything is very precise, and there's nothing to guess or anything like that. This is all very precise.
Yes. And this is going to be so interesting because I mean, we are not going to be astrologers like the viewers or something, but just to know about one's own like birth chart, just a bit, that what do you have as ascendant, and what is the graha there, maybe you have a planet, and what is the nakshatra that you have. And we're going to introduce in our future sessions, Connie, if it is okay, like some apps where people can go. Piti has some very nice apps where people can just write their birth, and they got to know more about themselves, and just to know the basics. So we're going to be even more prepared with the pictures of the apps and how to, which is very simple to use, just install it, but where to go and their stuff. Very nice, Connie. Gratitude for being here with us today.
Gratitude to you, Afrodita, and gratitude, of course, to the great Vedic master Prashant Trivedi.
He's amazing. He's amazing. See you next time. Shiv Narayan.
Shiv Narayan.
Shiv Narayan.